What was the original purpose of church, of attending church? What were churches originally before religion twisted it into a deception, the deception that it is today? On my journey, I have since discovered, on my deconstruction journey, that everything that's written about in the Bible in symbolism can be gelled down to a system, a means that deals with regulating our nervous system. Everything comes down to that. And if we don't have a regulated nervous system, we don't have coherence, and we do not have access to, quote unquote, God, to the divine intuition, right? A dysregulated nervous system keeps us perpetually in fight or flight, or in defensiveness, in a closed down state. And this prevents us from accessing the higher vibrations and frequencies of divine thought, divine wisdom, divine inspiration. So everything is about regulating your nervous system. And originally, churches started out with that purpose. Those big cathedrals and temples that we see, sometimes the ancient structures. Quite often you will see the steeples clad in copper with a whole bunch of electrical, what are they called? For the wires. For the wire attachments. What are they called? Those ceramic, can't think of it, but it's electrical. The churches were electrical sound chambers intended for the purpose of keeping the body regulated, keeping the nervous system regulated. And people would go in there and take sound baths, or chanting baths, right? Sound vibration would calm down the nervous system, would regulate the nervous system, and support the human health. It never had anything to do with this modern concept of these stories about God, about worshiping God or believing in God and singing to God. It had nothing to do with God, because God is not an entity or a person like some king that we are called upon weekly to come and worship and bow before. It had nothing to do with that. It was a science, and the ancient spiritual practices practitioners knew that. Everything was about sound, frequency, and vibration. And these churches with their steeples, with their antennas, they were often built on ley lines and specific geographic location to really I'm lacking the words today, to really benefit from the energetic grid of the Earth's ley lines, to become these healing centers, right? But again, today, what's practiced today, it's a total distortion, and it was never meant to be that what it is today. It eventually morphed, and people would go to church on Sundays, and however often they would meet in the church to sing and to pray as a means to calm their nervous system. But I think that actual intention got lost. And in time, doctrines were introduced like hell and sin and all of that. And so going to church actually became a traumatizing event, especially if the preachers would thunder from their pulpits about those worthless sinners that are going to hell, right? Talk about spiritual trauma. That's not what churches were intended to be. But they lost their purpose and their meaning, and today it's just a misguided endeavor, a misguided gospel, a misguided teaching that has people walking about completely blind. So we need to refocus. This so-called belief in God and worship of God was actually a health practice to regulate your body, to calm down from your stress, to give your body relief, and therefore maintain your health. If you cannot regulate your nervous system, you are going to end up sick with all kinds of diseases and inflammation, because our bodies were not meant to live in that perpetual stress that we're under every day, right? In the self-condemnation. So, to recap, the old church structures were sound temples, sound cathedrals, where people went to meditate, to recharge their energetic field, and maintain their physical health and their mental health, right? And not until the Catholic Church introduced the teachings and doctrines about eternal hell and eternal conscious torment, and identifying the humans as wicked sinners, that's when our health went downhill in more than one regard. It went downhill spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, and physically. And to this day, people suffer because they do not know what the original purpose for spirituality and for churches was, if that makes sense.